We're going to be taking a look at the brand new Evercade Cartridges volumes 11, 12, 13 and 14 in this episode. I did a review of this remarkable piece of kit a couple of years ago now, it may have even been around 18 months. And we're going to talk about how the new games fare. So if you watch this entire video all the way through, hopefully it will help you make your decision on which of these new cartridges or some of the latest cartridges you need to pick up for your Evercade in 2021. So, in the essence of full disclosure, I was sent these Evercade games for free. Thank you to the guys over at Evercade. I am not paid for any of this. These are my own opinions. So, we'll take a little peek, shall we? Now, I was very excited to play particularly this bad boy, the Oliver Twins Collection, which comprises of, I think it's about 11 games in total. Crafted by the amazing Oliver Twins. Obviously we know them famed for the Dizzy series. If you haven't played any of the Dizzy games, where have you been? Definitely more popular amongst European gamers than anywhere else in the world, I would say. So I think it's going to be an interesting one because if you're a viewer in America, this may not be as familiar to you or as appealing to you as some of these other cartridges, so bear that in mind. Now, I want to start with my personal favourite, okay? I'm going to start with my personal favourite, and it's definitely for me, out of the most recent four, it's cartridge number 11 with Xeno Crisis and Tanglewood bundled in. So out of all the cartridges that I own, this cartridge only has 2 games. This has the least amount of games on any cartridge. However, don't let that put you off because it's certainly not about quantity, it is about quality. Xeno Crisis I've completed it on the easiest mode on the PS4 on stream, and the guys over at Bitmap Bureau sent me out all the different variants of Xeno Crisis, so I've played it a lot, and when I played it on this, it just visually looks just as appealing and stunning as what it did on the PS4. It's out on the Dreamcast as well. Really nice kind of arena, not an arena shooter, but think like along the lines of Smash TV. You're going around from room to room, collecting different weapons, avoiding enemies that can come at you from all angles, and you've got to kind of get to the boss and defeat the boss and then move to the next world. Every world looks very different, or every kind of level, if you would, looks very different in terms of pixels, colours, just general design, and it's really charming, really nice, and it's just awesome to be able to control on the Evercade. It plays really well. Tanglewood, again, so both of these are indie games. Tanglewood was developed on original Mega Drive hardware, and I do believe I received a press copy in 2018 to review, and you play as Nim, a lonely fox who wakes up from a sleep and has to take on this world full of danger, full of uncertainty, and you do collect little orbs or little kind of fluffy balls or weird things that are just super darn cute, I would describe them as. Very academic description there, and you can use different powers to progress through this fantasy platform game. So when I heard that Xeno Crisis and Tanglewood were coming to the Evercade, I was very excited, having already played them on other consoles. Now, so as you guys can see, both look really nice. If you're into your 16-bit games, definitely check out this dual game cartridge of Xeno Crisis and Tanglewood. And if you are new to Evercade, and you may not know this, but I did mention this in my review, you do get a coloured, tangible manual, and check it out. Little kind of leaflets that we used to get in our games, just telling you little bits about the game. As you guys can see, we got the Tanglewood art on the front and then flipped with Xeno Crisis on the back. I've always thought that this chick here reminds me of Jill Valentine from Xeno Crisis, don't you think? But yeah, really nice. Oh, the smell of the manual as well. Really awesome. I mean, check out some of the sprite work in Xeno Crisis. So all of that is bundled into your lovely little manual, and the manuals come with all of these cartridges as well. So it's a big thumbs up for this first cartridge. Next up then, like I said, the Oliver Twins, famed for the Dizzy series on the ZX Spectrum, amongst other things. If you're in America, this is not going to appeal as much, like I already said, because Dizzy was a huge gaming character here throughout the 80s, and then coming into the 90s, perhaps not as prevalent in the 90s as he was in the 80s, but there were lots of Dizzy games, and it was the second game I ever played on my Spectrum back in the day. Horoscope Skiing being the first, and Dizzy is the second. Now, I will say that I am not as fanatical about this cartridge compared to this, because I just feel that, for me, the Dizzy games are fantastic and they're charming, but there's just something missing. The controls sometimes for me feel a little bit blocky. I'm just constantly kind of having to look down and thinking, do I need to kind of remap this? Because it was just like the jump. I wish the jump and the attack were, they should have been flipped essentially. So, you know, in its native state, the controls weren't that good for me. I did actually really surprisingly like the puzzle games of Dizzy more than I liked the platforming games, which baffled me because I never played the puzzle Dizzy games. I always focus very much on the kind of adventure and the storytelling of Dizzy rather than it be like the puzzle games. So I wasn't as fanatical about this, and that's not to say that it's not a good cartridge. It definitely is, and I think if you're a fan of the Oliver Twins and Dizzy, this bad boy has to be in your Evercade library. Again, 11 games boxed in. We got the Fantastic Adventures of Dizzy, Super Robin Hood, Wonderland Dizzy, Panic Dizzy, Go Dizzy Go, Firehawk, so not all of these are Dizzy games, Professional BMX Simulator, which again the controls are very difficult. It's that top down kind of classic Commodore 64 Amiga kind of days, looking down, again, just the controls are far too difficult for me. Dream World Pogie, Dizzy the Adventurer, Mystery Dizzy World, and Treasure Island Dizzy. So it's there. Not as good as this for me, but you might have very different opinions. Next up then, we're going to go with cartridge 13. This is the Atari Collection 1 of 2. Now, when I saw this announced, I was super excited. The Atari was revolutionary for its time, but hasn't aged well by today's standards. I think if you compare it along the lines of something like this cartridge here, this blows this away beyond anything I can kind of describe. Now, for me, this is definitely a cartridge about quantity rather than quality, as there's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 12. There's over 15 games bundled into this, which is one of the higher cartridges in terms of numbers. Again, you've got your little manual in there. And one of the things that I did like about this cartridge in general was just how amazing the scaling pixels were on some of the Atari games that I just really thought for its time. It was absolutely remarkable, like technology back then, you know, to have that kind of scaling look and then, you know, zooming back in. Really nice, but I just didn't particularly like the games. A lot of them were very confusing for me, and unfortunately I'd not heard of them. So right off the bat, this wasn't as appealing because I'd not heard of them, so it wouldn't have prompted me as much to buy it, say, compared to like this, the Oliver Twins collection. So you got to bear that in mind, but if you're an Atari fan, I think that this will, you know, you'll get some joy from this. Unfortunately, it's the weakest cartridge out of all of these four. And just kind of leading on from that, this is obviously the Atari Lynx Collection 2. Now, what you'll get in this cartridge compared to this are games that you will likely be more familiar with, such as California Games and Chips Challenge, which is one of the staple titles on the Atari. Again, unfortunately, California Games, I first played that on the NES, and you had the 6 events and you picked your sponsor and you put your name in and you competed and you got the highest points and then essentially you won the trophies. This isn't like that. There's only 4 little mini games of the California Games that look and feel very different compared to what I was used to. Again, the controls were an absolute disaster. I played the half pipe and I just couldn't master the turns or the tricks. Needless to say, it's very difficult on the NES as well, but after a while you did pick it up much easier on the NES. So this for me felt a little bit fiddly on the arcades. There's only 8 games on this, so much less, but a higher quality compared to this cartridge. So you've got to bear that in mind. You've got quality, if you can call it quality, and you've got quantity with your Atari collections. But if you're an Atari fan, Atari Lynx fan, let me know in the comment section below, and maybe share some of your thoughts on some of these cartridges and games that you've played on your Evercades. So overall, I think that these are great additions to the Evercade library. They're not the best cartridges by any stretch of the imagination, but there's already 10 previous games out, cartridges, packed full of games. There's over 100 games released on Evercade, and it's a great little device. Go and check out my review if you want more information about this device itself, how it plays, how it feels, the ergonomics, etc. And if you do decide to buy one, let me know. Again, I'm not paid for this. This was all my own interpretation of the games. But if I had to pick one out of these lot for me, it would definitely be Xeno Crisis and Tanglewood. Thank you for watching this episode, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Lockdown is lifting soon, so we'll be getting out, doing some thrifting and some gaming bargain finds when the Out and About videos drop again. But for now, I would ask that if you enjoyed this video, it would really help me out and it would help this channel out and future content if you guys hit subscribe. If you're kind enough, hit that join link. I'll roll a video now to explain how channel memberships work. I need a few seconds of your time to tell you about channel memberships. If you guys want to become a channel member, click join from the main page or the second link in the description. There are 3 tiers, all with different perks for you if you want to become a team member. Thanks for your time. Let's continue with the video. And thank you very much for your time. I'll see you soon. See you in the next one. Bye.